What is a hero? A mythological figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability? An illustrious warrior? No. It's a person admired for achievements and noble qualities, one who shows great courage. Welcome to the What's a Hero podcast, where we dive deep into what a hero is and what makes them that hero. I'm your host, Ken Frownfelter, and I'm going to be introducing you to some of the world's most likely and unlikely heroes. You may have never heard of them before, and they most likely have never met you. But they all have one thing in common. They are ready to do whatever it takes to help make you better, even if it means sacrificing everything for you. Let's get into it.
Welcome to episode 17 of the What's a Hero podcast with me, Ken Frownfelter. You know, the top 10 reasons relationships fail, according to Psychology Today, are trust, different expectations, moving through life at different speeds, compatibility issues, communication issues, narcissism, and relational abuse. I would say, if you were to number these, number one should be communication issues. Communication is easily the key to any relationship. Intimate relationships, friendships, working relationships, familial relationships, or any other kind you can think of. Everything will eventually break down if communication is not maintained as a priority. Top leadership principles regard communication as within the top 5 virtues. How many times have you said to yourself, I wish admin would communicate better with their subordinates? And how many times, if you're admin, have you said, why aren't the subordinates not communicating what's going on? You see, communication works both ways, and it's not just so those in charge can make decisions. Communication is important in any direction in the relationship hierarchy. The leader needs to know so it can make decisions or course corrections. The subordinate needs to know the why so they will maintain loyalty to the mission and to the leadership because they feel included and respected. It works both ways, and they both have their various reasons why they work. Every single one of those top 10 reasons can be attributed to communication breakdown, should one of them be the cause of relationship failure. You see, communication develops knowledge of others to others so they can be trusted. If there are different expectations, communicating them early and often would help you know what to expect. Different speeds, tell the other person what and why your plan is so they can follow or get out of the way. Compatibility issues, communicating your why and what for early and often, as said before, makes the difference. Narcissism and relational abuse are just selfish, ego-driven behaviors that are outwardly communicated. Any of these should be visible if you are honest with yourself and with others. Being aware that communication is either lacking or dishonest should be easy with basic understanding of communication. Does the person you're in a relationship with, does their behavior match up with their words? Verbal and body communication speaks volumes if you pay attention. And that brings us to today's guests. Once again, I have 2 guests that are professional communicators. Well, at least that's what their job title says they are. They are the ones you hear if you were to call 911, the first to answer your call for help. They have to hear horror stories or just plain horror without being able to do anything about it. They talk people through medical procedures without having the ability to make sure it's being done right. They send their officers, their friends, into harm's way and feel whatever the officer's voice sounds like as they are risking their lives. They are the calming voice during a chaotic event. They are my friends, Jessica and Tatiana. Welcome.
Hi.
And the tone, the pitch just got much higher in this room. So, how are you guys today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
It's beautiful outside today. And it's Taco Tuesday.
Oh, Taco Tuesday.
You laugh, but that's important.
You're right. It is very important, especially. So right now I'm in the middle of I'm intermittent fasting. So everything before noon sounds great. I have a lunch and then I'm like, oh, I'm so full, but I don't have like a big lunch. So you say Taco Tuesday and I'm like, oh, yeah. But
he's not on our level.
Give me 2 levels. No. Give me 2 hours. I'll be fine. I'll be ready for tacos.
Tacos, tequila.
But, well, that's funny because taco and tequila today. Tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day.
Whiskey Wednesday.
And so then, yeah.
Perfect timing.
So, but no, but I think since I'm off work today, I get to work tomorrow.
You and me both, buddy.
I think I think they're doing Mexican food tomorrow. So it's going to be
Siesta.
like all week they're having
wencheladas. Is it Wenchelada Wednesday? No.
That doesn't
Like
sound very
wencheladas.
appetizing.
What's a W Mexican food?
What?
Ew, stop. No.
I don't know. Moving on. So, you guys, thanks so much for coming on to the show today. And we're going to talk a little bit about who you guys are and what you guys do and why you do it and all the good stuff. So, who wants to go first?
Tot?
All right. I'll take it.
Okay. So, Tatiana, you're a little bit younger, and that's all right. But who are you? And who was little
Question.
who was little? I guess I'm trying to figure out.
Little tater
So
tot.
normally I'll take everybody. So let's take, like when George was on here, I said little Georgie, right? I can't say little Toddy.
No, that's actually what I was called a lot as a kid.
Okay, then who was little Toddy?
She was mischievous and funny. I listened to my parents pretty good, actually. We have a great relationship. I didn't like to disobey them, but I was a little bit of an adventurer. I remember when I was like 4, my dad wasn't paying attention to me, so I climbed out my window and I went to the construction site next door to me, just started talking to the workers, and to this day, I don't know how I wasn't abducted. But,
They had work to do.
yeah, they were like, this girl talks way too much. Let's get her out of here. I was talking to them about my grandma, how much I loved her. Talked about my dog. Basically what I talk about now hasn't really changed.
All the same stuff.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
And so you grew up and you go through school. Were you an outside kid, or were you like you stay inside all the time?
No, I was an outside kid up until probably middle school for me. That's when technology really came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be outside riding bikes, scooters, my little kick and go, and had a lot of neighborhood friends, just like normal kid stuff. Like everybody else that comes on here, you just spend all your time outside. And then once I got older, it became more social media. I spent a lot of time online. I wasn't into video games though, except Guitar Hero. I was like,
Played that all the time, did you?
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time just outside, just figuring out the outside, riding bikes with your friends and doing all that sort of stuff. But you didn't, were you, I guess you said when social media kicked in, were you online all the time?
A good amount of time, yes.
So you still have your MySpace page?
I had a MySpace page, and I wanted to make it look real cool, and I had to change my song like at least every couple days, because you never know. There's always something better out there.
Did you switch up your top 10?
Oh, yeah. If you made me mad, goodbye, top friends. You're the worst.
Yeah, you could change your top best friends every day.
Mm-hmm. I remember,
I'll trust you. I believe you.
In like my 6th grade year, I had a huge crush on this 8th grader, and I was in his top 3. And I was like, oh my gosh, the love of my life. This is it. I haven't heard from him in like over probably 15 years at this point.
That's
But
good.
Not the one.
He wasn't the one.
He's obviously not the love of your life.
No.
So you're outside, and then you get up into high school, and you get to that point where you're starting to figure out what you're going to do with life. Were you going to go to college, or were you going to?
Yeah.
What were you going to do?
I changed my mind a lot. I went to school, graduated, not with the best GPA. I wasn't a great student. I didn't have bad grades, but I just didn't like to show up.
Mm-hmm.
I skipped school a lot, and I just wanted to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to go to school. And once I got my license, I was like, I'm going to sleep in. It's going to be great. I'm going to still pass my classes. I ended up taking some online classes to graduate on time. And then after that, I went to college for 3 months, hated it, moved back home, got another job, went into the dental field, and liked that and figured, hey, I should be a dental hygienist. Go to school for that, realized, not good at science. But I had always an interest in the criminal justice field, and all my family's in law enforcement. So my aunt is also a 911 dispatcher, and I give a lot of credit to her because she was like, you should at least try. You can come do a sit-in with me. And then I did it, and nope, that's sit-in. I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Why do you have so many screens? So many people are talking to you. Why are they so needy? And still think that. And I got into it, and then I applied, and it's a long hiring process. But
and there you are.
And here I am. It's a shorter life.
I don't know.
So
there's
young in here.
I'm not that much older.
Yeah, right.
I think
Only 3 years.
I think there's a thing though where you said that your whole family's been in law enforcement. So
yeah, my uncle's a sergeant for LAPD. His wife is a detective down there. My other uncle was a correctional officer, and then more on my aunt's side, who's the detective, but we're not blood. She has her sister in law enforcement, and she's a K-9 officer. And so I've always been around it.
And your brother?
My brother doesn't know.
I mean, your cousin?
My cousin, now he's an officer for the same agency I work at.
Mm-hmm.
And my roommate works for our neighboring agency.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's everybody.
So everybody, so the whole world you live in is just...
Whole world.
It's all about, it's all about blue and, or I guess in your guys' case,
gold.
Yellow, gold.
Yeah.
Line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. I have no firefighters in the family, really. I have one that works for the U.S. Forest Service, but he's working from home right now. So
how do you do that? How do you fight fires from
Well, there's no
home?
fires really going on. He was on that huge fire this summer.
The one that burned up all of Southern Oregon and California?
He was on one of them. Yeah. The multiple that we had.
Nice. And Jessica, you grew up how? Who were you growing up? Little Jessie.
Little Jessie.
Now I can call you Jessie because I know someone who calls you Jessie. And I was thinking of one of the guy Jessies that I know. I'm like, why is he talking so intimately about Jessie? And it wasn't like it was bad. It was just like, oh, we were spending a lot of time this weekend together. I'm like, what's going on? And I realized he was talking because I don't think of you as Jessie. Right? So anyways.
Right. Yeah. So most of my life I was Jessie or Stubbs. Mm-hmm. I was not a Jessica.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in a town where there's more cows than people. So there's about 2,000 people. There's no stoplights.
It's good.
Cowboys, cows, super outdoorsy kid, super bossy kid, very dramatic. So basically, just like now, just a little version of me.
Just, okay.
Yeah. So everybody knew everybody. Same best friend my entire life. My dad grew up there. I had the same teachers that my dad had, same teachers that my grandparents had. So everything just stayed there, and you just kind of, everybody just did the same thing. Yep.
As the next generation did, and it all kind of, has it changed since?
Yeah, they built a prison. So it used to be a big mill community, and then mills aren't really a thing anymore. Right. So now they built a prison, and so now it's a very different population.
Because when people get out, they may not go back to their homes or whatever. They may stick around.
Can't find an Uber in that town.
No Ubers, no fast food. There is a Safeway.
Oh, well, that's beneficial.
And we had a movie theater.
We had a movie theater?
Yeah, we had a movie theater, and it showed the movies like 3 months after they were like already out on video, but it was still fun.
That's kind of cool. So you grew up, I'm assuming, outside. Playing outside all the time, since everybody's a cowboy or everybody's kind of just a real working person.
I'm slightly older than Tatiana, so social media was not a thing when I was a kid.
Just slightly, though.
Just slightly, just 3 years. Yeah, outside all the time. My parents forced us to do sports from like T-ball on.
Right.
My dad would be like, you make me a list of 5 reasons why you don't want to do this sport. He'd make a list. He'd be like, give me 5 more. Give me 5 more. So.
And because they weren't any good, right?
They were never good enough, and he knew that eventually you'd give up and be like, okay, I'll just do a sport. So me and my brother both did sports like our whole life, and it's probably what kept me out of trouble.
That's pretty good. So you're going through, did you have an idea what you wanted to do, or did you have an idea of I'm going to get through high school at some point, maybe? I'm assuming you graduated okay.
I graduated high school. Yeah. I graduated college.
And did you have this, and you went straight to college?
Yep.
All 4 years, 8 years, 6 years? You a doctor?
4. I wish I was a doctor. No, I wanted to be a criminal psychologist. My grandpa worked for the FBI. So I just always had an interest in that, but I didn't think I could pass background check. So I wanted to do the more psychological aspect of it.
So a lot of people say that. A lot of people say, well, the background, blah, blah, blah. Why did you
have to be a golden kid?
Right. Why did you think you wouldn't pass the background check?
Social media became a thing in college, and your professors were like, if you have a MySpace, I won't give you a recommendation, or they'll dig up a picture of you dancing on a table or, something. And I was like, I am not the face of the FBI.
Well, they do have those like back rooms that people sit in, and
that's true. I could have done that, but I was more interested in the psychology of like why they did what they did.
Right.
I don't think I'm overly brave.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it in person.
So you get through school and then you decide I've got to find a job.
Yeah.
So did you just go say, I'm going to go try to be a psychologist, or did you just think I'm going to do something else, or what?
No, so I've always been drawn to helper jobs. I was a lifeguard through high school. I did wildland firefighting all through college. When I graduated.
All right, hang on. We're going to put a pause on that for a second. Were you wearing those green pants and the gold shirt, crawling through the mountains, digging trenches so fires would stop?
Yes.
How cool is she?
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Is that
she doesn't look like that kind of person.
Right. If those of you that are listening that don't know her, she's 140 pounds. She's 5'6".
She's like, that's more than what I weigh.
That is more than what I weigh, but it's fine.
Sorry.
Muscle.
Yeah.
Either way, and you're up there with all these guys who are just these
don't like to shower.
Yeah, don't like to shower and don't like to. You have to do one of the tests that you have to do is this big old rucksack sort of thing where you got to go through wear that whole pack and try to go through.
It's a pack test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have to carry a 50-pound pack for 3 miles in under 30 minutes. Right.
And so this was all part of the gig. You said, oh, this is what I do.
Well, where I grew up, that's what you did. It was like Forest Service and BLM jobs. Both my parents worked for the Forest Service. My brother was wildland firefighter. Like, that's what you did as a kid growing up. That's what you did in the summers. So I didn't question it. It was just like, this is what you do.
That's pretty cool.
But most people like you look at me and they're like,
right. Because you're so soft spoken and you're small framed and the whole thing. And then
she's actually just badass, and no one would see it because they're like, she's so bright. She keeps it hidden.
Right.
And then when the time comes, that zombie apocalypse, she's going to know what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, what she said.
Carry a 50-pound pack.
Yeah.
Husband has a rifle. She has the pack. And you guys go in the mountains.
I mean, he can probably have the pack too.
No, but you have the experience with the pack, so that's fine.
True.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put it on him.
He's bigger.
He's bigger. It's fine.
So you're a wildland firefighter, and that was all through college. So were you working full time, or is that during the summer?
It's just during the summers, and then I go back to school. And then when I graduated college, I had to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I got a job at a residential treatment facility with teenage girls, ages 13 to 18, and I did that for 10 years.
Was that the best ever, or what?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was not the best. There's parts of that job that I love because you get every aspect of it.
Right. Because I guess the seeing the success, the seeing the person actually go and become something more, or become something better.
Yeah, but
those were very few and far between.
Very few and far between. And then you'd send them back to the same environment, and then they'd end up back in the system. So it was like a vicious cycle of like, why do I put all this time and energy into people who don't want to change?
Right. So you get through college, and then you get through 10 years of being
It's a counselor.
Is it a counselor? And then you're realizing this is not necessarily what I want to do. This is not my lifelong ambition.
Right.
And so you said, I'm quit and I'm going to go be homeless, or what'd you do?
No, somebody told me that there was a 911 job open in Grants Pass. And I was like, I like chaos. Like, I thrive under chaos. I love it. So I was like, I could do this. So I did a sit-in, and I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever.
Right.
And I applied and I got it, and here I am, living the dream.
So
paradise.
So we know that that's not the case. No job is absolute paradise, and no job is. So there's downsides to everything that you do, but growing into those things where you're comfortable being in that position, you know, and then obviously you go through life lessons and you go through ups and downs while you're doing the job. So what are you like when you got into it after your year-long probationary period or so, right?
18 months.
Yeah.
Because you're going through not just having to do the job, but you go through, and I know Dispatch Academy is a lot shorter than any other academy, but it's only about 2 weeks, right?
Three now.
Three?
When she was in there, it was 2 weeks. And then when I went, it was 3.5 weeks, plus the half is the EMD part.
And EMD is what?
The medical stuff.
Where you have to be able to...
So we have like a list of cards that we go through. So if somebody calls in and they're like, my stomach hurts, you'd go to the abdominal pain card.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd ask those questions. And they basically just go into that in the EMD courses, even though you get that when you first start. So it's just kind of like reiterating it.
Yeah. I would assume it's because it's a pretty important thing.
It is, yeah.
If
and then
you're
you
not...
have pre-arrival instructions you have to give.
Right.
So
If you're not giving them the right idea, okay, so I don't know how to do CPR, but I'm the only one that's here that's got to do CPR, so you got to walk them through CPR.
Mm-hmm. And you have to go through that. Like, I think one of the tests was you have to talk someone through delivering a baby, and then the baby comes out not breathing, so you have to talk them through baby CPR, and that's like one of the main tests that you take during EMD.
See, that's...
keep your cool the whole time.
Right.
No panic.
No panic. And how easy is that?
It's surprisingly easy.
It wasn't in the beginning, because I'm newer, so in the very beginning, oh yeah, I'm like, am I sweating? It's hot in here. I'm like, why is it? But after a while, you do it enough times, and it's another day. You usually have to talk to someone through CPR at least once a week, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I would assume, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a massive amount of detachment that you have to apply to this. So if somebody calls in about whatever reason, you have to totally detach yourself and say, well, you know, I'm not going to be involved in, well, we have an officer coming or whatever, and you have to be so calm that you almost sound uncaring, but the idea is that you're just calm, right?
Yeah, and sometimes we really question, like, ourselves, because you'll walk away from that and be like, wow, that was, like, you'll call and be like, are you guys okay? Like, here's what happened. And it was like, oh, I, like, totally blocked it out.
Right.
I wasn't even thinking about it. And then you're like,
Exactly.
oh, like, do I even have a heart?
Mm-hmm.
But you just do it so often, and then you can't sit there and focus on that call because you have another call.
You wouldn't
Right.
be able to make it through this job if you couldn't detach yourself.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, are you able to, does that translate outside of work? Are you guys able to now be a little more detached when it comes to, you know, your kids coming, oh, I scraped my knee? Well, in your case, Jessica or Jess. I take the Jessica's not allowed to be said anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for my kids to a certain extent.
Right. Well, that doesn't mean you don't have a heart and you don't care if they're hurt or whatever, but you're not getting as worked up as maybe you used to.
And I never did. I think just because I've always had jobs essentially like this where I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal.
Right.
You know, where other people are like, oh my God, he just fell and hit his head. And I'm like, he's fine.
He's gonna live.
Like, don't react. And he won't react.
Right.
So I do feel bad for them because sometimes I'll go home too and they'll be like, oh, I had the worst day. I had to do homework. And I'm like, oh, do you want to know what I did today? And then their eyes get really big. And I'm like, see, put it in perspective, kids.
So when they get older and they're on the What's a Hero podcast, and I'm going, well, my mom, she was really heartless. And she said, you know, told us just got to suck it up, cupcake, and get back out there. And
But you're very active in your kid's life, so at least they can't say she was never there for me. Because you
true.
are.
Very true.
She's just trying to toughen them up.
True. That is true.
They get a harsh reality for sure.
Yeah, that's all right. So when you're going through these things and you're trying to figure out, you know, whether or not this is the job you want to do, because at least for police officers, when we're going through training and all this different stuff, we have to go and we get to that point where like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to, because FTEP is incredibly hard, and you just get stressed out, and you're like, I want to quit, and you start looking through the want ads when you go home from work. You know, who else is hiring? You know, that sort of thing. Did it ever get to that point for you guys?
Oh yeah, definitely in training for me.
I think everybody has that point in training. Like, I loved it, and then I had one trainer where I just dreaded going to work, and I would leave work, and I was just like,
a mess.
Why?
I'm just like, this
why
is
am I
so
doing
hard.
this?
Yeah.
And like, you feel dumb. Like, you're like, why am I not getting it? You're
right.
Because there's so much you have to learn, and you have to keep your cool about everything. But I definitely looked, and then I was like, I would call my parents, and I'm like, guys, I don't know if I could do this. And they're like, you could do it. You definitely do it. Just push through. And then I did. And once you're released off training, I feel like you have a new calm about you.
You have a new calm.
Yeah.
But there's also now this new sense
you
like,
are a huge liability at this point.
Yeah, but I've got to do my job, and I've got to show them that I can do my job the right way. Right?
Yeah.
And then when and if you mess up when you're on your own, it all comes back to you, and you get either called in or you get written up or whatever, because you're just trying to do the right thing, or at least what you thought was right, and you missed a step or something like that.
Well, it's hard for us too, because you're responsible for the people having the emergency. We're responsible for the officers and the first responders going to the emergency. So there's so many different pieces involved. It's like, I'm worried about the domestic that's going on, but I'm also worried about sending you into the domestic.
Right.
Like, did I get all the right pieces? Did I tell you everything that you need to know?
Right. Because I guess like it's like what I mentioned in that opening where I said you're sending your officers, but you're also sending your friends. Because the majority of the people that you send, you know their families, and you know their kids, and or at least you know of their kids, and you have a relationship with them. And so you start thinking about, okay, what if something bad happens? You know, if there's a shooting or whatever the case is, do you guys put yourself there? Like, do you ever feel responsibility for that?
Always. Like, I've been involved, I mean, not personally involved, but I've been involved in 3 officer-involved shootings since I've worked there. And the amount of stress that is on our end of, like, did I do everything that I could have done? Because I know you're a wife. Like, I don't want to have to answer to your wife if something happens to you. If I made some mistake, I don't want to be on the end of that. Tatiana calling me and being like, hey, your husband was just involved in a shooting.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Yeah. So I see both. For me, it's more of a struggle because I see both sides of it.
And now I have family out there.
Right. Yeah.
So that makes it even worse. You want to do better because this is your blood.
Right. I remember there was a call this a couple years ago, several years ago, and the officer that was responding, his wife was the dispatcher. And he nearly got run over by a car, and his voice came over the radio as if, he's getting run over by a car at that moment. And from what I understand is that there is a pause with her, but she was able to, she's such a professional that she just pushed right through it and said, and just did her job. But in the back of her mind, she's thinking, oh my gosh, this is my husband that's going through all this crap, so I know that, there are dispatchers who are married to some of our officers. So when they go through that, are they able to distance themselves from it? And you might be able to just answer this a little bit better than Tatiana. But that's my thought is there a separation or are you able to?
Yeah, like, I think you can do it. Like, I think about it often of, like, would I rather be the one dispatching him to an incident, or I would rather be at home not having any control over the situation? Like, at least when I'm sending him, I know that I am getting everything possible that he needs to have the best outcome. So you can separate yourself from it, but it brings on a whole new level of stress and anxiety
and emotion, and I can imagine.
And it's like, what makes our job important is knowing your guys' voice tones.
Yeah.
So like you on a call, I know your voice tone so well that if your voice tone changes from the norm, it's like, okay, I know what's up.
Right.
So for us, it's like, okay, something's going on that's out of the norm with his voice tone. And then that adds like a whole nother of stress.
And we can't see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
you
that
have
doesn't
to,
help.
So
you just imagine the worst case scenario every time.
And then when you get the call, oh my gosh, his dog was trying to hump my leg when I was trying to talk on the radio. So it was just super weird. And so you're like, oh, that was the reason for the weird tone.
Oh, he was just uncomfortable.
Yeah, I get it. So, why then do, I guess not, I guess I want to kind of go through a funny kind of idea on this is there's tons of memes that are out there and you see on Facebook or whatever, on Instagram, and you see these people say about dispatchers knowing the tone and getting upset with the rookie who uses the wrong tone over the radio.
Yeah.
The ones who yell everything. Yells on a traffic stop. They're just giving you a plate. And you're like, quiet down, man. Dang.
Because the tone is
It is.
so important. And the rookies always are like so dramatic. Everything is just like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Here we go, here we go, here we go.
And you're like, valid no wants. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, you can hear them just calm down. They're like, we're code 4.
I'm good. I'm good then.
I figured it would be fine.
So does it ever bleed into, like I said, we have relationships and we have knowledge of each other and we have friendships. Does that ever get into the point where like, oh my gosh, this new kid is so grating on me? And then after a year or two, they're like, it's all cool. It's not like that anymore, but you still get frustrated with them? Obviously you get frustrated with your officers sometimes. I'm sure nobody ever gets frustrated with me.
No, you're perfect the way you are.
I knew this was going to be the answer. This is my show, by the way.
Yeah, we know.
No, but no, I don't, and you're not going to spare my feelings one way or the other. I don't care. But is there that other side of it where friendships kind of dissolve or whatever because of whatever's said on the radio, or do things ever get fixed? Patched up between if there is some kind of animosity or whatever?
For me, I don't take things personally. Like, I think that's just huge in terms of communication. I don't take things personally. So, I mean, if you do something that frustrates me, I might curse at you under my breath, but then I move on from it because whatever you're saying or doing, it's not about me.
Right.
And
there's a reason they're asking all these questions and...
Mm-hmm.
And if I get feisty with you on the radio, like, it's probably not about you. It's because I've got 2 phone calls going and, 911s are ringing and I've got...
And you almost think they don't take that into perspective as well because they ask you to do so much and then they're like, hurry up. And you're like, well, sorry, I'm trying to talk CPR or talk someone else through CPR.
Right.
I can't run your VIN right now. Give me a second.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think that communication needs to now boil over outside of radio communication? Because I know there's some officers that don't talk to dispatch, unless it's over the radio. And for whatever reason, it's an uncomfortability thing, or it's a professional thing that an ethic that they like to follow, or whatever the case is. But is communication that communicating with you guys outside of the call or outside of the professional standard, is that important? Do you think that would be important?
I think so. Yeah. I appreciate it a lot when they come in and you can just talk and it builds friendships.
Sure.
So I appreciate it a lot. And that's when you get to know the tone of your voice. Like, I wouldn't know your voice if you never came in, like when it changes so drastically.
Right.
I wouldn't know that if you didn't come in and talk to us all the time.
Yeah.
And same with other officers,
So my significant other is someone that people often are like, what is his deal? Like, he's got such
Does he smile?
Yeah. Like, but
yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, I have a relationship with him outside of work.
Go ahead, pull that mic a little bit closer.
So I can.
You don't have to get close. You can just pull it to you.
I can be like, listen, guys, like, has nothing to do with you guys. It's just.
That's just his demeanor. He's mellow. Mm-hmm. He's a very mellow guy. And, and I'm gonna talk him up a little bit here. I hear people say, "Oh man, that guy doesn't smile. He doesn't talk. He's just quiet all the time." And I have to disagree with them. I have more of a communication whenever I see him. I have a great relationship with him, and he and I will talk about just off the wall stuff. Now I know he likes to collect rocks. Mm-hmm. He's an avid. I mean, and that's his thing, and that's cool. But we can talk about that. I can talk because I'm interested in why he likes rocks. What is the thing on that? So I'll have a conversation with him about stuff, or whatever the case is. And he's totally open. But I think a lot of times, and this is just people in general, where we don't think that what we, if there's an issue, it's like, oh, that's that other person's issue. No, you need to go and communicate with that person. You need to develop a relationship with that person and get to their level, wherever their level is, and figure out how to do that. And I realized that he was one of those guys that he's mellow. Okay, cool. But he can have a conversation about anything, and he's way cool about it. So I agree with you where you say that you just got to know them. And if you got to know somebody, if you got to work next to somebody where it could be life and death, you have to know what they sound like. You got to know what they think and what they feel and all this other stuff.
So you have to make an effort. So people get frustrated with Tatiana and I because we're very bubbly.
Yeah, sure.
We pretty much make an effort to get to know everyone, to be friends with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Some people get frustrated with that, but I like to think that's partially why we're good at our job, because we know people. I know the way that you say things. I know,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's super important. Get to know people. Some people are quiet and standoffish. Like if you walk in the door and I've never met you before, I'll be like, hi. We're going to be best friends.
you just don't know it.
Yeah, you just don't know it yet.
Right.
And I think that that's important. I know not everybody's personality is like that, but having some form of relationship with the people that you work with is going to make you better at your job.
Right. I think you're absolutely right when you say that, you have to be somebody like that on this planet. If everybody was just we just got to be serious and we got to be, or everybody's always, I want my rights, or whatever the case is, and there's nobody that's just wanting the best for everybody else. Who are we going to be? What kind of people are we going to be? So what do you guys like to do outside of work when you're sitting there, when you're not being those people that are answering the phones for other people and not, listening to people complain about their problems or whatever? What do you do?
Outside of the overtime?
And then, outside of overtime as well.
Outside of overtime.
Do you remember what that's like?
It's been a while. Well, Jessica and I grew up about the same, so we like to do about the same things. We like to explore, go see things.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, when I grew up, we went to the dunes a lot and would go ride quads. I had to sell mine to pay for college, so I don't have it anymore.
Oh.
But I used to do that a lot, but now it's just, I like to spend time with my friends and family.
Yeah.
And I don't get to see them as much anymore because I'm just always working.
You're always working.
Always working.
And then whatever time you do get off, you're like, I want to go
to bed.
You want to go
exhausted.
sleep. Yeah.
And our job isn't physically demanding, but mentally, you get home and you're like,
done.
I'm going to watch SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's relaxing.
I'm like, this is a lot easier than not going to watch CNN.
No, there's I'll save it. So what do you like to do? What do you like to do, Jessica?
I like hiking. I like fishing. I like camping. I just like to be outdoors. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we spend so much time indoors
Yeah.
that I really crave the outdoors. So,
Especially on a day like this.
yes.
Yeah.
Thursdays,
Beautiful.
Jessica and I walk in to work at the same time, and we're like, should we just
wanna
leave and go
be
hike?
Let's go for a hike today.
We just want to go for a hike. Like, it's such a beautiful day, and we have to be stuck inside for 12 hours.
Right.
And, I mean, we love our job, but we can't be outside. Like, that's the huge perk of your guys' job. You guys get to at least be outside, but
Mm-hmm.
you get to deal and smell things that we don't have to do.
There is an odor. I'll tell you this story.
Yeah.
This is an odor story. It's pretty good. So me and this other officer, he's now a detective. we had gone to this house that was, there was an alarm that had been going on, that had gone off. And so we go up to this house, and we got on the other side of the door, and it's like 2 a.m, 3 a.m. And, we noticed that the door was kind of opened a little bit. So we're on either side of the door, getting ready to go in. And we were thinking that maybe there's just, there could be somebody broke into it, but we realized that it was vacant, and it's been vacant for a while. So we go and push the door open, and this just waft of stink just comes pouring out of the house. Mm-mm. And his first words were, "Oh, transient."
Oh no.
And he turns his head, turns his whole body, and nearly gags. And I look inside, and I see, I'm thinking, okay, so maybe people are squatting in here. No, nobody's squatting. The people they cleaned the house up, and they piled all the garbage bags that they had from cleaning the house up along the wall of the entryway. Mm-mm. So all this garbage stink had come out. But his first words that came out of his mouth were, "Oh." So it was, in his mind, the smell of rotting garbage is the same as. So just so you have that.
So in our area, it's a lot of.
There's quite a few.
So you deal with a lot of them,
mm-hmm.
which means you smell that often.
There's that smell, yeah.
And you know what we smell? Tacos, because it's Taco Tuesday.
Cake, cookies.
Yeah, we get all the snacks.
Treats.
True, mm-hmm. True. You guys do get. Yeah, there's always that thing. Even if it's. You go into dispatch, you have nothing to talk about. You're not necessarily going in to say hi to anybody because you said hi earlier or whatever. You go in there because you want to see what kind of, I don't know. It's like having that cousin that you don't see for years and years and years. And then you're able to pick up that relationship right out the gate when you go to visit them. You're like, oh, nothing's changed, and nothing is.
Why don't we hang out more often?
Right. Yeah. But because that whole idea that you sit there and say, hey, I know what's going on, and I know who you are, but when you start saying something, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm on track with you. I'm tracking where you're at and stuff like that. So I think it's there's a big misconception of who dispatchers are, and I think you have to have a little bit of that. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but they have to have a little bit of that understanding of that, so you can deal with half the crap that you guys have to listen to or try to talk people through.
I didn't think I had a dark humor before I started this job. And then once I got this job, I think dark humor just started.
Is it Jess's fault? Did she?
Of course not. She's an angel. Look at her.
There's no dark humor.
No.
Okay.
There's other ones in there that have darker humor. And you're like, oh my goodness.
True. Well, we've talked to Susie on here before.
Yes.
And she's one of your guys' supervisors. But she's also active military. She goes around the world.
Her humor's great.
And yes, I agree.
That's the kind of humor we want to be around.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So, so the fact that you guys grew up, and I think this is a common thing that I'm starting to notice with a lot of the first responders and heroes that I'm talking to, is everybody grew up outside. There are a ton of kids, and we know a lot of kids who just all they did was sit and watch TV, or they never went outside and played. They played video games all growing up and all this different stuff. And everybody that I've spoken to on here so far has been like, oh yeah, I played outside, rode my bikes, hung out with my friends. I got into fights. I did this, I did that, and all these other things happened. And then and then they grow up to be this, right? They grow up to go into this profession. Where does it come from that you guys want to do good, where you want to, that question when you get hired, or when you go through your Aura board, why do you want to do this? What was your answer to that?
I don't remember that question.
I know I didn't go with the basic, I just want to help people. Because everybody's going to say that in this job. But what did I say? I'm thinking about it.
I have just naturally always been drawn to helper jobs. But
what is it that scratches that itch? Why do you want to help people?
Well, luckily with our job, I know in the relationships we have built with our coworkers, we're able to get the ending of stories. A lot of dispatchers don't get an ending. Like,
Right.
we send people and that's the end of it.
Right.
But luckily, we know people. We could get the end of a story, and that helps a lot.
Right. Well, you go to those big, huge metropolitan areas, L.A., New York, whatever, and they don't even know. They have no idea who they're.
Even some in county. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
You can say whatever you can say. You
Okay.
want to say.
I have friends who work over there, and they don't really know their officers at all, or the firefighters,
Mm-hmm.
or any of their EMS. Like, I know we don't know. EMS doesn't come visit us a whole lot, but we at least get the fire heroes to come visit us, and we're in the same building as you guys, so
Yeah.
you're able to build a relationship and get that ending. But some of them, they're not even in the same building. They're
Right.
blocks away. They're miles away.
Yeah.
Their center is.
I remember, I think this was like on Cops or it was on Rescue 911 or something like that. And it was before I was ever a cop. And I heard somebody say that, dispatchers never get the full story. They there's this point where they go through all this different stuff and they take the call and they dispatch out to it, but then they never get the closure. So there's always that cliffhanger for them, and they don't know what's going on. And I made it a point, and then I told myself, if I ever got to become a cop, and I was working to do it, but if I ever get to do it, I will make sure that on big calls, I will go in and I'll let them know, hey, this is what happened. I don't know if you care. And some of them, some dispatchers are like, oh, thanks. I was wondering. Oh my gosh, that's really nice of you. And the others have been like, yeah, what happened? Oh, who cares? And that was there's some that just don't care. And
that might be a part of their detachment.
Yeah.
They are able to let that go. But I know for me and you, we can't we want to know the ending.
That's what I love about that job is I want to know all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like finding the people and I like putting pieces together and I like knowing all the things. So I have no problem calling the fire heroes and being like, hey, what happened on that lift assist? Hey,
yeah, why were you there so long?
Yeah, like, what happened?
Yeah.
But you are always good about calling and being like, oh.
And we really appreciate that because some don't.
No,
because I
always thought it was important because I'm going through it, and if it's emotional, if it's going to be emotional for me, and I've had some really emotional calls, that if I go through it, then you look at the call and see that you guys were either on the line with them for a half hour or whatever, or you talk to them until we can get there, and whatever the case is, you would have to have some emotional attachment to it as well. So that was my, I guess, thought process behind that, but not knowing, because some of them just don't care. I mean, a lot of them, they were maybe short timers, people that were retiring, or, and not all of them, because there's some that have retired that I still talk with that I thought were great, but others that were short time as far as they were there for just a short time. Mm-hmm. And then they moved on, whether they went to another department or whatever the case is. But that was, I think it's important that you communicate with your communicators, the people who are there, but not able to do anything about it other than just talk about it and connect the dots for others. So,
yeah, we only really get the beginning. We get the crapshoot basically in the beginning. You get the people who are hysterical. I mean, I'm sure they're just as hysterical when you get there, but we try our best to calm them down before you do. But
there's some people.
What happens?
There's some people that you show up and they're still like, oh my gosh, and then you hear them say, oh, they're right here over the phone. Yeah. And you would just talk.
I've heard that multiple times. I'm like, I'll stay on the line with you until they get there. Let me know when they get there. And then once you guys get there and they see you guys, calm.
Yeah.
Just like they're at ease at that point, which I get. I mean, if you were in an emergency and you're waiting for officers to respond and then you see them, you're like, I can take a breath now. Right. And I get that.
Right.
But yeah, we get the chaos part. Mm-hmm. Well, that beginning part at least.
So that dichotomy between chaos and order, where it's not so good, and then when they call and they call you guys, and then we're here. So with that idea that once the police get there, there's a calming effect. Are there a lot of people that call 911 that? And I've never answered a 911 call, but are there a lot of people that call 911 that, and I don't, I've never answered a 911 call, but other than actually gone to them. But when you have somebody that is calling 911, are they demanding to the point where I want my police officer because I pay their taxes to get here right now to take care of me?
I've been called a public servant multiple times.
So there's a mix. Like when I started, I thought I lived in the belief system that people only call 911 for emergencies.
Right.
Same.
The majority of calls are not emergencies. And people are so rude. Like some people are very sweet. Some people, they're in crisis. I get it. But some people are just demanding and are like, I don't even know why I pay for you because you're not getting me help when I want help. Well, I'm sorry, ma'am. An officer's job is not to take you to your hair appointment.
You'd be surprised.
They're not? I thought we have that back seat for a reason, right?
But yeah, people are
they think you're a taxi service.
Very entitled.
That's all the time.
What are some of the good ones? Tell me some of the good ones.
I mean, old people are always, well, not
it's always the people
very
who actually have the emergency who are so calm on the phone. Like they're like, hey, my husband isn't breathing. Yeah.
I don't want to bother you.
I don't want to bother you, but like.
My husband just collapsed out by the barbecue.
Yeah. Or my brother just fell off a roof. Like, they're calm. And then it's the people who are like, oh my God, there's this dog on the side of the road and it's going to get hit. And you're like, okay, but it hasn't been hit. So
right.
I understand. I'm a dog person, but.
The one good one for me, though, always makes up for the 10 bad ones. Like the sweet old lady
you in such a good mood.
Thank you so much. Like, I appreciate you.
Right.
You know, those ones just always are like, okay, all the people that called me a bitch, the 10 calls before you. Like, thank you.
You've just validated me for what I do.
And that's what makes it feel good. Definitely.
So do you ever question yourself in continuing to do this and be like, I don't want to put up with this stupid garbage anymore? Or, like I said, those one call that validates what you're doing. You're like, my day sucked until 3 o'clock. And then
for me, I love the job.
Yeah.
Like, I love everything about the job. The good, the bad. Like, I love it. It's the politics and the drama and all the outside things that I don't enjoy about the job.
Whether it's politics within the organization or politics, actual real politics, where they're talking about defunding and all this kind of crap.
All of it, I think.
All of the above is what wears you down. It's not the job. Like,
the job is great.
Always going to want to help people. I'm always going to enjoy finding people and pretending I'm a private investigator. Like,
right.
You know, I'm always going to enjoy that part, but the rest of it gets exhausting. Like Tatiana said, short staffing gets exhausting, working all the time. Like, if you have kids and you have a family.
Yeah, those are the people I feel bad for the most. Like, they're trying to have a life outside of our job, and you can't because we're short-staffed, and they just don't see that. Well, maybe they do. I don't know. But that's the hard part.
Right.
Definitely is. I know if she gets mandated to work a shift, I'm going to take it if I'm not working because she has kids. She has things she has to do.
Right.
And I don't have kids, so I'm going to take it. I mean, that's valuable.
But then it's always this balance of like, well, I don't, you know, like you don't want her to take it because you know that she already worked this. But then you have to explain to your kids, I'm sorry, I can't come to your soccer game. Yeah. And they're like, oh, you haven't been to a single soccer game. Like, I grew up with parents that were at everything. Every sporting event, every school event, everything. So for me as a parent, it's hard to tell my kids, like, I desperately want to be there.
Right.
But I can't be there because these people need me more.
Right. And that idea that if you don't go do it, who's going to go do it? Right. Do you have to explain that to them?
They get it now. Like, I've been in it long enough that they understand it. But there's still times where my youngest is 8 and he's like, but Mom, you just worked the last 6 days. Like, why do you have to go to work again? And it's like, but if I don't go to work, there's nobody to go. Like, there's nobody to answer their phones.
And you need that.
Right.
You need that extra person. I mean, we're needed, but
yeah.
Right. So there's this, and I've mentioned it on here before. It's called the Travis Manion Foundation. And basically, his whole thing, he was a Marine that died in Iraq, but his whole thing was, if I don't go do it, who's going to, right? And I would assume, is that the that your mindset when you think of, you know, that she's not feeling good. She's been sick past couple days, and she had texted you because you guys have a relationship outside of work too. Like, man, I feel like garbage. I don't think I'm going to make it into work today. I'm going to call in. Knowing that, oh, now they put out a thing saying, hey, we need coverage, that you have to go do that because she's sick or because another person. I know another one of our dispatchers just went and had a baby. Mm-hmm. And so she's obviously not able to go be there. But if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. Does that weigh on you guys?
Oh, absolutely. It's a total mindfuck all the time of like, I got mandated a couple of weeks ago and it was like, it's not their fault. They have to mandate you. I know they don't love to do it. But then it was like, because I was like, I have plans. Like I have my kids. I have plans. I can't do it.
And these plans were like planned for a long time.
Like months.
Yeah.
Right.
So then they're like, okay, we'll make so-and-so do it. And I'm like, no, don't ruin her day too. So then you just suck it up and you're like, okay, like I will just give up my plans because I know Tatiana has plans. I don't want them to ruin her plans because my plans aren't more important than her plans.
Right.
So I think it really helps like having a relationship with your coworkers though, because if you know those things, you're more than willing to like help out.
Right.
If you don't know anything about this person that you're working with, you're less likely to just sign up for that shift to help them out. Mm-hmm. Not because you're an evil person, but because you're like, well, I have plans. I don't know if her plans are more important, but luckily when you have a good relationship, you're able to tell them, hey, I'm going to take that shift for you because I know you and your kids have had this plan for 3 months.
So what you're saying is that having that open communication is important.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Weird. It's almost like that. It's that's like a topic.
I tied it in.
Good job.
But you're right. You know, you have to communicate. And if you don't communicate, you're just going to everybody's going to get frustrated. Be like, oh my gosh, nobody ever does anything. But, well, let's communicate. If I know that the other people on my team, one is going on vacation, another one has, they have something with their kiddos that they had planned to do, and another one is doing whatever. And I start thinking about that because we've communicated it. I start thinking when they put out a thing saying, hey, we need more people to come in. Okay, maybe, I guess that's going to be me this time because everybody else has got a thing going on or they had plans already and it was whatever. So you have to have that open communication. And if you don't have that communication with your coworkers, your friends, your brothers, your sisters, whatever the case is, there's a huge disconnect and things don't work out. It's not smooth. And you start developing animosity and you start developing, dislikes. But the minute you start communicating and not thinking that and not letting your ego speak for you, that makes a difference.
Huge difference, yeah.
So I don't normally ask this, but but I don't have a lot of dispatchers in. What is the funniest and or best call that you have taken?
Oh, Jackie would be perfect for this.
I know, Jackie's so
she
good
would be perfect for this.
She has a million stories.
She does have a million.
Sure, she does.
She's been there 25 years, so
I know,
she knows a thing or two about
she's
some good
great.
stories.
Now, Jackie, if you're not listening to this, you need to go listen to this.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about you.
She doesn't know what a podcast is.
She has an Android still.
She asked me today. She's like,
I have an Android.
What's a
I'm judging you.
and I was like, listen, lady, you got to get in the
You have to get it.
That's funny because I've gone camping with Jackie and her husband, and I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that totally.
She's such a sweet lady.
There's just so many good ones. Like I used to have a guy that called me every day. He thought he was my boyfriend. He just liked my voice. He would just call, and other people would get very annoyed because he'd be like, "Can I please speak to Jessica?" And
sir, this is an emergency line.
She'd be she's on another call. He's like, I'll wait. And then you're like, what's
my
up?
Girl's gonna come for me.
What's up, buddy? There's just so many. Like I had a guy call one time and said that there was a giant snake trying to eat him on the freeway. Yeah. And if you listen to the recording, you can hear in my voice tone, like, is this real? Is this fake? Like, what do you mean a snake's trying to eat? Well, just ate my car, And it was just like this big. Were you there for the lady?
Were drugs involved?
Drugs were definitely involved.
Always. The lady who said she was raped by snakes, she called 911 for that. She was having some... Once
again, drugs were involved?
Hallucinations, yes.
Yeah.
I have a guy who calls himself King Arthur. You remember King Arthur? Yeah. Calls himself that. There's so many, but like...
They just all
blend together because you take so many. Like there's...
I like when people fire me.
Yeah? How many times have you been fired?
Oh, at least 5 or 6.
Honestly.
So
I should be working.
Explain what getting fired means.
So you don't give them what they want.
The service they're expecting.
The service that they would like. I will not give them an ambulance for their dog.
Right.
I love dogs. I would love to transport your dog to the hospital for you, but I can't.
Right.
So then they're like, well, you're not doing your job. And you're like, well, sorry, man, this is not my job. Here's the phone number for the vet's office. Here's blah, 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 all these services. Well, you're fired. Well, you can't fire me. I just did.
Well, I'll let my manager know.
Right. I will go home then. Like, thank you.
Perfect. Day off. Love it.
How many times have you been fired?
I think only... They haven't said exactly you're fired, but I had... Oh, this was a good one. It was during the fires this last summer.
Right.
And this was all the way out, like... it's a very secluded area, and I had no idea. I didn't know what it was called. It's basically a commune, so it's not on a map.
Okay.
And I'm not from here, so I don't know the lingo. There's some dispatchers who know everything, like Jamie.
These side streets, these side roads. She knows these places,
and I feel like she wasn't there, so I didn't have her help that day, and I was like, this is when you need Jamie. But they said they were at this one place and that a structure was on fire. And I was like, okay, well, what's the address? Well, there is no address.
Right.
And I'm like, well, where are you at? And they told me this place. I can't remember what it was called, but I was like, I've never heard of that.
Some
and they're
kind
like,
of flats, right?
Yeah. And they go, well, learn your geography, sister. Why are you even working here? And I'm like,
But it wasn't even in our county.
It was in California.
Right.
Yeah, it was because we're at the border. So, yeah, it was in Northern California, and you had to get there.
It was
through
some hippie commune.
It was,
and they expected you to.
They called me sister, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, calm down." I'm like, "It's kind of funny. I'm gonna laugh about this later."
But it was super funny because I remember you texted me about it, and I was dying.
Yeah, I was just taken back. They're like, "Why do you even do this job if you don't know where you're dispatching to?" And I'm like, "Sorry, I don't know where
hippie commune flats
commune is." Like, I'm sorry about that. I'm sure, like, if you drive close enough, you'd be like, oh, there it is. Exactly. There it is. I don't smell the fire, but I smell your patchouli.
So what's the worst one you've ever gone
to? Probably a baby call on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
She found her baby dead on Mother's Day, and I will never forget hearing her scream. You will never forget that sound of that poor lady that found her baby.
Right. I had this conversation with Steve Berman a couple podcasts ago, and it was we had to do a notification. And that scream that a mother makes is like the worst, most deep guttural scream you hear. And that person maybe has never screamed like that before, maybe never will again. But that scream that a mother makes when you tell them that their child's dead is the most heart-wrenching, blood-curdling scream you'll ever hear in your life. And so when you say that, I know exactly what you're talking about because it is brutally difficult to go through that.
Yeah. And so every Mother's Day, I think about this poor woman and I just relive that moment for her because I can't imagine.
That was my first CPR call, was a mom finding her 3-year-old not breathing.
Yeah.
It was my very first one. And yeah, no, you could hear that scream, and it's not good.
No, it's not. I remember, and I'll tell this story about one of your fellow dispatchers, is that there was a call where this child had been shot. Got them to the hospital, and unfortunately, she didn't make it. I went through all this different stuff at the hospital, but then the detective said, let's go ahead and get a funeral home on the way. Well, I didn't realize that dispatch didn't have the knowledge that once she got to the hospital and all the stuff that happened at the hospital. So I just went about what I did, and I called and I said, hey, can we get a non-preference funeral home? All this blah, blah, blah. And the dispatcher who had answered the phone, oh, hey, how's it going, Ken? Hey, how's it going? Hey, listen, blah, blah, blah. And when I told her this, she totally stopped, and there was this silence on the phone. And I started hearing her crying on the other side of the line. because I didn't take into effect or to account that she did not know what was going on. She was thinking things were good. She was probably just doing that disconnect thing and trying to just check boxes and cover bases. And she didn't realize that the child had passed away. And then now I'm having to ask for, a funeral home to come pick up the body. And I ruined her day. And I felt like an absolute piece of crap for doing that. And I didn't realize that lack of communication or that disconnect that she had, because she was just doing her job, but she wasn't privy to all the other information that was going on, that she now was getting this information that was totally blindsiding her. And so once again, it takes back to that thing where if you have open communication and you have a good relationship with people, you can go in and you can be able to get that across, and they know where you're coming from. You're not coming from a mean-spirited place or something like that. So
I know for me, like, if they get transported to the hospital, I automatically think they're just going to live. So we don't understand. We don't hear the outcome if they don't make it at the hospital. Mm-hmm. So every time if they get transported, I'm like, we're good. But unfortunately, that's not the
people
outcome.
do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's hard for some people that you don't even think about that. So if it comes down to it, when in doubt, communicate it out. That sounds stupid, right?
I love it.
No, I think we should get that.
That's our new catchphrase.
We need it on a sticker, honestly.
We're going to
get a hat.
Apparel.
All right, good. So now I can start selling apparel on my podcast.
Yeah.
You get your new shirt. It says, when in doubt, communicate it out.
Communicate it out.
You're laughing, but I'm going to make that for you.
Honestly, that's a great
It's
idea.
happening.
Koozies?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see it now.
Cool. All right.
Project tomorrow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, let me see. Oh, there's another one I was going to bring up. There was have you ever had anybody come and thank you outside of law enforcement for what you did? And I don't mean the people that just come and, hey, it's Appreciation Week, thank you for everything you did. But it's more hey, I need a specific thank you for what you've done.
Yeah, like they've come to the PD or they called the chief and sent him a message to be like, please let her know that I really appreciated her. A lot of it comes from like family members, though, of people.
Right.
Like I had a firefighter whose grandpa had a heart attack, and I stayed on the phone with his grandma forever while he had a heart attack. And then she reached out to him and was like, please tell whoever was on the phone, like, thank you so much.
Right.
So those are always nice. Like, we don't do it because we want that. Like, not that you guys get a lot of that, but you get more of it than we do. Like, we kind of get forgotten.
Right. And that's
They don't see our face, so it's easily forgotten. I mean,
and there's a thing where it's, are dispatchers are they first responders? I mean, they're the first responder, I guess.
First responders.
The first,
is what they say.
Yeah.
So my mindset, I think,
we're
is the same.
Yeah.
Is we don't look at ourselves as first responders.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be viewed as a first responder. Not that our job isn't important, but don't put me on the same level as police officers or firefighters or EMS.
Right.
They do way more. They have to deal with way more. They see these things.
Like, you're responding. We're not. Yeah, we get you the information to respond.
Right.
But I'm not a first responder. I don't want to be viewed as a first responder.
A second responder, maybe. Yeah. We'll go with second. We'll take that.
From your perfect, because you see, that was my thing is you hear people say that, like, dispatchers aren't first responders. And then some say, well, they are first responders. Normally people that are saying that. But I personally, I'm sitting back. I'm like, I don't know. They respond to the phone call when it gets answered, but somebody has to, I guess. But the other side of it is,
we're not putting our life on the line out there. Like,
right.
We're not getting a gun pointed at our head or just threatened.
Right.
We don't have that threat. We're in a nice call center with air conditioner right next to us and heaters on our feet, and we get
a box of blow and behind
we got a box of blow behind us.
A couple sometimes.
Wait a minute. Blow box.
Blow box.
It's not a box. A box of blow would indicate you got a ton of cocaine in your. That's not what I'm saying.
We don't have any.
No
of that.
cocaine. Full discretion. No cocaine.
Disclosure.
Yeah, disclosure. That's what I meant. No, full disclosure. No cocaine in dispatch.
Yeah. So you're there. So perfect. So then I can easily now. I feel comfortable saying that, dispatchers are not first responders because dispatchers don't think of themselves as that way. But you do take some responsibility in what goes on and how things are handled. And that is initially how it just gets, how it's going to kind of, I guess it's the person that tills the soil to prepare everybody else so they can go do what they need to do, so they can go, plant the seed or pick the crops or do whatever. There's that portion that you do have responsibility for, but you're not doing the heavy lifting necessarily.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And we know that.
Most of us know that and feel that way.
We understand that we are not first responders. And it's why I think we applied for this job. Like,
I don't want to be recognized.
I don't feel the need to get that, we don't need that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. We don't thrive on that. Thank you.
So when I invite you guys to come on the What's a Hero podcast, where's your mindset? Do you see yourself as?
No. So we were talking about it, and then I was actually talking to a real hero that I happen to live with about it. And I was like, I don't really feel comfortable going on a podcast of heroes.
Right.
Because we're not
at least
heroes.
when Susie was on, she was in the military.
She's got the military
She got the
stuff.
military experience. But me and Jessica are like, nope.
I think we can bring things to the table.
Yeah.
But I don't view myself as a hero.
Let me ask you this. If there's a major incident, and I've talked about this before, where we have a major incident debrief, do you guys get to come to those?
Yes.
If you are the call taker and or the dispatcher for that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Would you not think that there carries a toll on you that you are going to either lose sleep on a major incident? That is, you're going to lose sleep. You're going to lose the fact that you're not eating right. You're going to second guess maybe in the near future what you're doing, all because you took that call and you were involved with that and you tried to do your best to make sure resources got to.
So you and I have been at one recently together where normally I wouldn't go, but it was like, they were like, your piece is important to the officers so you can explain what happened. But like for me, my anxiety was like, oh my gosh, like if I had coded it different, if I had put this in the call, would it have turned out, different?
But the fact that you did something, and you did something and it just happened to be that you were the one on the console at the time, but you were there, you did it. Had it been somebody else who had less of a mindset to do the right thing, or that was lazy or whatever. And I'm not saying any of our dispatchers are lazy, but it could be anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, of somebody that just doesn't do the job thoroughly. Mm-hmm. It could have been anybody, but it was you that was there, and you did what you needed to do, and you got the information out, and you cared about those who were going through that situation, and you worried about them, and you checked up on them, and you then had to say your piece. And I think that little bit that makes the difference is the fact that it was you, and the people relied on you for what you did. And I think that's what makes you the hero, is that you did what you needed to do because it was the right thing to do. Your integrity kind of shot up at that moment, and was just the right thing to do at the right time. So, and you're right. You guys sit there and say, well, I'm not a hero, whatever. I think you are, that you don't realize it, because if you guys could easily be a psychologist or a,
who knows, right?
A bartender in Florida. That's her lifelong dream.
I know I'd be good at it.
Yeah, we can go to, I can do Florida. We can.
Right? Well, we already discussed this.
Okay,
a
we
whole
did.
bunch of us we're just going to buy
We
a
did.
mansion in Florida.
We'll get to this in a second.
Okay.
We'll get to this in a second. So, but never. I think you guys should never discount the fact that you guys are heroes. What you do, the fact that you go in, you don't make the decision to go into a burning house and save the baby, or step in front of a bullet so other people don't get hurt, or whatever the case is. And you don't go into these houses where it's totally volatile and at any minute the worst thing could happen. Yeah, you're not doing that, but you're making sure that the people that are doing that have the information they need to go do the stuff that they need to do. So, and I've mentioned this before, is every soldier that goes on the front line, there's at least 10 people that are supporting that one soldier. They need at least 10 people in various different things, logistics, supply, cooks, and, bullet manufacturers, whatever, right? You need at least 10 people to support that one person going on the front line. So there's a lot of people in the back. So we have however many officers that we go out on the front, we need that many more people to be supporting them and making sure that they're getting the information they need, and getting people contacted and communicated with that need to be communicated with. And so there's a huge thing that whether you second guess yourself or you question yourself, you shouldn't, because what you do is just as important. Because without that, where do we sit if we don't have what you guys are providing?
You'd be blind.
Going blind, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and it's only so much can be done going into something blind. That's why we need to train, and that's why we need to have communication, and that's why we need to have knowledge of what's going on, and people willing to do that digging. Like you said, you want to be an investigator. Mm-hmm. We'll get you a fedora and
makes
a trench
it that
coat.
much more fun.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah. And so go and say, oh, I got it. John Smith lives over here. And you're like, all of a sudden you just crack this case that somebody's been working wide open. They can go over there and find the kid that's been kidnapped or whatever the case is. And everybody's safe, right?
Yeah, we are heroes.
So don't second guess yourselves. And so I wouldn't have invited you guys on if I didn't think that, and I would have invited Susie, and I wouldn't have invited other dispatchers that I have for future episodes to come on the show if I didn't think that you guys had something to offer and that you guys weren't heroes in the long run. So keep that in mind.
So sweet.
I know.
Keep that in mind. So anyways, Florida.
Going to our Florida topic.
We're going to go to Florida. So there has been talk that with all this defund crap and all this other stuff, what would police officers do? What would dispatchers do if they did get laid off or whatever? And so that thought is Florida is well, except for maybe October and November, it's mostly
sketchy sometimes, but not always.
It's nice. So we would all start a business. We would all go down there and we'd all buy our giant mansions each, because they're like houses are $3,000 to $4,000 square foot houses for
so cheap,
$300,000 or however much, and everybody can get their own house. But then we got to figure out, okay, how do you pay for it? Well, then we talked about we start our own business of something or other.
I know I want a taco truck.
And you can do a taco truck, but it only runs on Tuesdays.
We've had a taco plan for a while, but this would be a legitimate taco truck.
Yeah. And then I was like, I would be a great bartender. I know this. I'm a social person. Talk to anybody. And drinks are neat. So.
You know what I would like to do? I think be on the beach, and I'll just be that guy who just makes those little tiny umbrellas for drinks. I just have just a billion toothpicks. And I'm just going, and I sell them to you.
Yeah.
And you can sell them at your bar. But just
we'll make
hot
it
glue
work.
gun, toothpick, and paper mache.
Done.
I think we can make a great living over there.
I'll sell them to your bar.
Warm,
and then
we got a beach.
But then I was going to do public speaking for your husband's business at whatever he starts.
Yeah, he's going to start a tactical company.
Yeah, see? And they're going to need something. So we'll do that.
You're great at public speaking. There you go.
I don't know about that, but we'll see.
No, you're a lot better than most. We'll give you that.
Some. It's better than some.
Better than some.
I'm no John Maxwell or Les Brown or... You guys have no idea who these people are. These are
what is he saying?
These are big names in the public speaking world.
Should we know these?
These guys are
Apparently
huge.
we should know
I'll tell you, some of these guys, their motivational speaking that these guys do, Les Brown and John Maxwell and gosh, you can go Gary V. All these guys, not only leadership, but motivation and public speaking. You can learn a lot just by listening to them or watching their shows or not
Maybe
shows.
we should start that.
Yeah.
I read a lot of books. Maybe I should start.
Then I have some books for you.
Jessica can be a motivational speaker. I'd listen to it.
I have a book for you. I'm going to give to you before you leave.
Okay.
I'm going to give you're going to like this book. So, anyways, I just lost my train of thought.
That happens to the best of us.
It does. It does. I guess you guys have anything you wanted to cover that we haven't covered?
No, we were leaving it up to you.
Yeah, but Ken's gonna have some good questions for us.
I hope I had good questions.
No, you've kept it very.
I mean, if you just had me and Tat go off,
we'll
just
it would have been off track so early on.
Okay, so where do you guys see yourself? I guess you guys are still fairly youngish. Where do you see yourself going?
We're not youngish. We are young.
Jessica's only 3 years older than me.
Yeah, but
everyone needs to know this. 24, she's 27.
Okay, so where do you guys see yourself? Where do you see yourself going? You see yourself retiring, graduating, retiring from in there? I mean, being 50-something years old, or do you see yourself becoming more? Do you becoming, supervisor? Do you want to?
I want to see myself, go up the chain. I'm not sure if it's going to be, and I love my job. Mm-hmm. I really do love it, and I could do it probably anywhere. But do I want to be in an office for that long? I don't think so.
Right.
But it's not the job that I don't love. It's just the fact that
if you could do it, if you could dispatch from the beach in Florida.
Oh, I would do it in a heartbeat. Fine, huh? And I would retire there.
Yeah.
I'd probably work past retirement because
it's just being inside of a building.
It's
being
inside and being secluded, and you don't always get conclusions to your calls, and I could live with that. But the constant being inside and wanting to walk around and do things, we can't. I mean, we're there a lot, and we're sitting in one spot. Luckily, you have good coworkers who keep you very entertained. Thank you, Jessica. It's a buddy system we got going on. But I don't know if I would see myself, unless we could start dispatching outdoors, the next 5 years. I'm not sure where I'm going to end up. I'm a go with the flow kind of person. How about you, Jessica? Let's put it on you.
No, I don't think that I will stay there long term. I require nature and movement and
lack of walls.
Yeah, lack of walls. Like I just I love my job, like Tot said, but I need, my passion is to be outdoors, and I hate being sedentary. Mm-hmm. Like sitting for 12 hours is just not good for me physically or mentally.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll become a private investigator.
Hey, that's a good idea.
I like animals. I'd like to start an animal rescue.
And then I will work with Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
Because okay. Okay, so I ask this normally of everybody. If you had, and I ask it kind of in a different way, but if you had one more day to live, or you had one opportunity to go back and fix something that you've done or said, or you needed to say something to somebody because you are never going to see them again, and this is your only opportunity to correct something or fix something, and you can do it, and it's across the board. It's open. It's an open invitation, and you're omnipotent at this point.
So what am I going to do with my last day to live, or what am I going to do with my last day to live and tell somebody that I tell somebody something?
Well, that's what it is that you have that last time to go, and you can change it, you can fix it, you can go back and say something. You can go anywhere within a certain amount of time, and you can say anything without the fear of any kind of reprisal, and you just have this opportunity to correct a wrong.
I feel like I've told everyone what I've needed. I'm pretty an outspoken person. I will tell somebody what needs to be said. But, if it's my last day, I'm going to tell everyone that I care about that.
Right.
How much of a difference they've made in my life and how much I love them. But
because this was a good one. I'll use just Tim as an example. He said that he said he's thought about this one, and he's thought about it every time he listens to the show. And that was he wanted to go back to his kids and be a better dad for his kids.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
Right.
Jessica may have a different.
Well, and I'm not saying she's
having no kids. I'm just my dog.
But I mean,
maybe,
just having this opportunity to go back and say things, say something to somebody that you haven't, that maybe you didn't get a chance to before they passed away, or.
Yeah, I don't have any like big regrets or anything with people that I feel like there's unfinished business or I have things to say to them. But I can agree with Tim, not in like being a better parent, but just being more present. I mean, it's real easy to get caught up in the day-to-day stuff and get distracted. And my kids are still little enough. But there's a lot of times of like, Mom, put down your phone. Mom, why aren't you paying attention to us? Mom. And I'm like, I just spent 12 hours like doing things for other people. And all they want to do is hang out with me and have my attention.
Right.
So just being more present with my kids and just being more appreciative, of the moments that I do have with them. Because when you're a teenager, I remember with my parents being like, I can't wait to move out and I can't wait to just do all these things. And now I miss my parents all the time.
Right.
Where I'm like, I wish I saw them more. I wish I had stronger relationships with them. I didn't take things for granted. Like my brother lives right next door to my parents and I'm so jealous. Yeah. I don't want to live next door, but I'm like, maybe you get to have like family dinners.
Right. You get to go. Yeah. So I've got like cousins who they all live in the same, pretty much within a 20-mile radius of each other and down in Southern California. And we grew up down there and we grew up with them. And they're those cousins that I was talking about earlier where you catch back up and you pick right back up where you left off. And we can do that. However, they get to do that all the time. And so when I go down there and like, hey, how's so-and-so? They're like, oh, I haven't talked to them in I don't know how long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd see you guys every day. If it was up to me, they don't, they're always there. They watch, Sunday football together. My cousin he's got his pool and he's got his TV outside by his pool and the football game's always on and they always have, maybe a tri-tip on the barbecue and they're always at the pool all football season long. And I'm like, and so everybody comes over for that. And I'm like, I don't have that because we don't live by everybody down there. But no, I know exactly what you mean. We're just having that relationship, so I guess if you don't think about it, it's not a big deal. I mean, you have a lot of time to try to figure out, whether or not that what you do is going to have an effect on yourself or on others, and then whether or not it was the right decision that you make as you go through life. So I'm not judging you for not giving me an answer to my question.
At the moment, I just feel like I don't have a lot I need to go back on. We will
get back in touch with you in 10 years.
Yeah, come back to me. Give me some time to live my life.
Right.
I'll make some mistakes, I'm sure.
But
at the moment, I don't have a lot I would take back.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd go to school. I wouldn't have skipped as much as I did. Maybe get a better GPA, so I would have got a scholarship. But
I would definitely get better grades and pay more attention.
I had a fair GPA, and I didn't get a scholarship.
See, then what's the point? I'm glad I slept in on those days.
I had my life in college, but I'll tell you what, I didn't learn much.
Well, what I think is ridiculous, this is off point, but the fact, so I went to school for dental hygiene, and I was going through all the prerequisites, and I had to take like classes that don't matter, like have nothing to do with your teeth. And that's what I think is a scam about college, because you're paying for classes that aren't going to help you in your career, have nothing to do with your career.
Yeah, but you have a knowledge. So so I've got my degree in criminal justice. Yeah. And one of the things is biology or even world civilizations. And I love world civilizations. I hated biology. I mean, absolutely. With criminal justice, at what point is biology going to come into play? I mean, amoebas and
the other stuff.
The other weird named little things, right? So I guess you don't think about it. Yeah, you deal with dead bodies or whatever the case is, but you don't need to know that microbial biology and stuff like that. Same thing with world civilization. However, it makes you a better, more rounded person.
It does.
To have just some knowledge.
It's almost like you're paying $500 a class for these things, and if it's not going to help you in the career you're choosing...
I took softball and snowboarding.
Yeah, see? And
all of those, and I don't regret it.
Well, when I was looking through the criminal justice program at the college you went to, now you have to take all these music classes to get your degree.
That'd be cool.
It would be cool, but am I going to want to pay for that?
No, I would. I would not.
I don't want to pay for that.
Yeah.
It's just, it has nothing to do. It's just to make you a more well-rounded person, which is cool and all, but I should be able to have a choice.
True.
Because that's expensive.
True.
Don't come cheap.
So, anyways, well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. We've been going good an hour and a half at this point. Yeah, you guys did. Yeah, you guys had no idea, did you?
Look at us just chatting away.
This is daily.
And so, but thanks for coming out, and even though you were questioning whether or not you guys were heroes or not, you're like, well, am I going to be on this? Trust me, there's more to it, and how I see it. And this is my show, so I get to kind of say what I want to and put who I want on here and whatever. But the way I see it is that you guys are heroes. You guys do have a place in that way that serves other people and helps other people and makes other people better. So don't question yourself, and don't not trust yourself and believe that you are something more than that. So, okay.
Well, thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us and appreciating us.
So,
yeah, we love that appreciation.
I do want to let everybody know that you can get a hold of the What's a Hero podcast on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and on that ever famous Facebook. And you can go to the What's a Hero podcast.buzzsprout.com, and that's our website, and you can get a hold of every episode we've had so far. You can also take you links. We have links on there that'll take you to every podcast platform that you might listen to, so you can download it on your phone so you don't use all your data when you're listening to the show, because there's actually people that will just use all their data and listen to the show that way, which it's cool, but put it all on there. You can listen to it on a plane ride to Florida.
Guess what I did on my plane ride to Florida.
Did you listen to the What's a Hero podcast?
You bet I did.
I think that's not true.
She does listen to it. Probably not on the way to Florida, but she does listen to it.
It might have been Crime Junkie, but
it's
same thing.
I'm sure Crime Junkie's a great podcast.
Oh, it's great, but not as good as this one.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Are you?
We're going to get you so many followers.
Please do. I would. You're welcome to do it.
We'll use our platform.
So, but you can get on there and if you leave a review, it lets people know that, hey, when they start doing the biometrics and whatever, somebody's searching for a podcast, they can actually search off of your review, or if they start looking at it and like, oh, hey, so they say that's cool. Maybe I'll look into that too. So I actually had a guy who listened to the last podcast. He sent me a message last night and said, oh my gosh, that was so good. Well, cool. Put a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to it. And then that gets into it and gets more downloads. Downloads are good, especially if I ever want to monetize this thing, because right now I'm making $0. I'm actually in the red on this show.
Once we get you those
but it's fun.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of good fun doing this. We can get some koozies. We have
when
people
it's out,
buying.
communicate it out.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you start doing that, people start downloading. It looks good. It helps people start searching when they start looking for something that is beneficial to them, or they want to get into, see what the world of the police world is, or a firefighter, or dispatch, or a veteran, or whatever. And they can get some motivating stories, or just, even if you don't think it's motivating, at least have an understanding of how all the stuff that everybody goes through to get into this profession, and the struggles that they have to deal with are real. And they have to take those home, and they have to try to figure out how to get back to homeostasis at some point. Anyways, so any last thoughts from you two?
I think just thank you for having us.
Yeah, and now I feel like our job is more important.
I feel more importanter.
Yeah, after
talking
talking to you, I'm like, we are important.
Yeah,
as you
We're
you should
thankful
think
for that. We love the appreciation.
So. No, and I'll tell you, that's why there's people that come in there and They come say hi to you every morning or at the end of their shift or before their shift, whatever, because they see that we're a team and they see that you're appreciated for who you are and what you do. So, and that goes for everybody that's listening. No matter what you do, if you're just a support person or you're just a spouse of a firefighter or of a police officer or a veteran, your job is sometimes more important than what they're doing. Sometimes a police officer is just driving around in circles looking for something and they're not finding anything. But that support that you do to be there, so when they get home after they dealt with that baby that passed away, or that bloody body, or the woman that got beat up and is now in the ICU, or whatever the case is, they deal with that and their mind is on that. You are there to support them, and so that makes a huge difference. So I want to thank everybody for listening, and we will see you the next time, or at least you'll hear us the next time on the What's a Hero podcast. And for Jessica and for Tatiana, I have been Ken, and we are clear.